What we're going to talk to now is cortisol. It's our big fight, flight or freeze drug. You will have heard of it probably and maybe not know much about it. You certainly would have felt it in your body. It's one of the neurotransmitters where we get a really big physical response to it. So we want to know a lot about it. It is not great for our body. It's actually poison in large amounts to our body. About 5 to 6 a.m. in the morning, depending on your circadian rhythm, the body will naturally release 1 dose of cortisol. The problem is that we didn't feed the cat last night. We didn't put petrol in the car. We forgot to make lunch. The kids are feral, husband's feral, your wife's feral. The world's a disaster in the morning. And so every single one of those moments will cause another release of cortisol. So by the time you get in the car with the feral kids and you've cleaned up the cat vomit, it's a bad morning and you're heading to work in that state. So this is the drug that is released in people just from looking at our face. So if I've got a face like a slap bum, I'm gonna subconsciously trigger your neurobiological response to my face with cortisol. And we're going to talk about the detriment of that. Cortisol it modulates or moderates our immune system, our metabolism. It's a really important drug. So it's got some good things going for it. But generally in the life we live, where we're feeling like hamsters on the wheel of life, we're just continuously churning, we've got far higher levels of cortisol than we should have. If we look at the board, the main things I want to talk to you about is that we will get a whole range of physiological responses to cortisol, and you need to know them so that you can be prepared to start undertaking some activities which will decrease the fight-flight response. If we look at the really badly drawn face on the board, you'll see there's a set of ears there that have got crosses through them, and what that's called is, under stress, we will get what's called auditory exclusion. It's the first thing to go. Eyesight and hearing under stress. Why? Why would the body reduce our ability to hear? And in fact, we can lose auditory exclusion, can decrease our hearing by up to 32%. So what it's trying to do, it's trying to keep us focused on the saber-toothed tiger that's in front of us. It's trying to keep us focused on the danger, the perceived danger. Now remember, the fight-flight response is actually perceived or real. It doesn't matter as long as the subconscious brain perceives that there's danger. So you might walk into a room and get a feeling, and that feeling could fire up your fight-flight response. You could go into a room and see somebody's face or hear a tone of voice. Think of something in your life where you've been put into the state of agitation and it's just somebody's tone of their voice or the look on their face. So it's really important to understand there's all these little hairs in the ears, not the long white ones that old men have, but they're full of blood, these little hairs. It's the wrong name, but we'll use that for now. That blood then pools in our quads and our glutes. So the blood pulls around our centre, so it's trying to protect our vital organs. It's withdrawing blood from our periphery. So you'll get cold hands and cold feet. People with PTSD, people suffering from anxiety, clinically depressed, will often have really cold fingers and toes. Why? Because the blood is pooling around their vital organs to keep them safe from the danger. You'll get a sore back, a really aching back, because the adrenal glands are just below the shoulder blades and they're pumping out adrenaline and cortisol, and they are keeping you in this high state of agitation. So you'll get tense muscles because we're ready to fire up our muscles to sprint away from the danger. So if we go back to the diagram, you'll see that the ears are crossed out, and that's a loss of hearing by 32%, approximately, under stress. Now, if we look at the vision, the little dot, and we look at our line of sight, if you sit there right now and you look over your shoulder, looking a bit weird, like we're just going to try and look over our shoulder, we can see about 180 degrees to 190, don't turn your head, just keep your head straight. That's it. Now look over your shoulder, about 180 to 190 degrees. Then that reduces to 70 to 90 degrees under high levels of fight-flight. Once again, it's trying to pinpoint you on the danger in front of you. It's trying to get you to figure out whether you should punch it or run away from it. That's why when we back out down the driveway, we run over the cat and we hit the letterbox. We pull into the car park building and we hit the front of the car on the pillar. You drive through the intersection and you can't remember driving through that set of lights. You've all experienced it, right? It makes sense when we think of elite athletes in elite sport. You think of the black ferns, you think of the silver ferns, you've got somebody under extreme stress. What happens to their passing accuracy? So their passes don't stick. It's not because they haven't practiced, it's not because they're not extreme and elite athletes and they haven't done the work. It's that their periphery vision under stress has reduced by 100%. It's gone down to 70 to 90 degrees. So now not only can they not hear the winger calling for the ball, they actually can't see the person on their left or right to pass to because their periphery vision. So it's under stress, that is what's physically happening to our elite athletes on the field. So many of our athletes will use mental skills tools, and one of those is called Red to Blue from Gazing Performance in the UK, an amazing group of men who developed a mental skills model, and it was introduced into New Zealand by Dr. Kerry Evans in 2010 to the All Blacks, and it basically turned the All Blacks around. They stopped losing the last 20 minutes of games, and you'll hear Richie McCaw and Dan Carter talking about Red to Blue. In fact, Dan only a couple of weeks ago was talking about it on national TV, about his red head and his blue head. That actually came out of Gazing Performance from their Red to Blue model. So it's a really cool way of getting from that state of overwhelm and high cortisol into our thinking head, our blue head, but that's for another day. So if we look at the board, not only is our vision going down, our hearing's decreased, but our prefrontal cortex, this little bit here, which is our thinking brain, can shut down by up to, and think about this, by up to 40%. So your ability to think clearly and make sound cognitive decisions has decreased under stress by about 40%, which is why when we're in an argument or a discussion or there's friction, we sometimes say things that we don't mean to say. We say things that we forget that we've actually said them, but we also can forget words. And if you've ever gone and knocked on the door of a boss and they look up from their desk and they've got a face like a slapped ass, you absolutely know that you're standing at that door and all you can think about is tomatoes and strawberries. Your brain has shut down, your thinking brain has shut down by up to 40% just because of the look on the face of the person who you're going to see. And in business, this is a really serious issue because we don't know actually how smart that person was before they left their desk. So 40% less smart than what they were, we could be a really low baseline, right? So we need to be aware that cortisol is the drug, that is the response to stress, but also from my physical stance. So as a leader, I need to be really aware of what's on my dial. If I come into a room and I've got that really serious look and I'm looking aggressive, I will fire the subconscious response in my team. I will shut down their intelligence. I will stop them being able to answer me well. And if you think even back to schooling or even back to your parents, can you remember the circumstance where an adult has said to you when you were a child, answer me, I want to know why you did this, and you literally have nothing to say? It's because the brain shut down, because it perceives that you're in danger. So look at the other things that it does to you. So we get an increased breath rate. Why are we getting an increased breath rate? Because we're trying to oxygenate, I can't even say the word, the blood, so that we can move and run faster. We're increasing our heart rate. Our blood pressure is going up, which is really detrimental over long periods of time. We've got some of the norepinephrine, so we'll have the sweaty hands. We will get a dry mouth. Some of you will know that you get a really grotty tummy, a really, really churning tummy when you're upset or you're stressed, because the body stops digestion. It doesn't want you to digest food because digesting food takes a lot of energy. So it actually shuts down your physical digestion. And that comes with a dry mouth because it doesn't want you to produce saliva so that you don't want to consume food. Men, erectile dysfunction. Why? You can't run with a woody, right? It doesn't want you to have any form of sexual function when you're under stress. Woman, dry mouth, dry woo-woo. Why would we be priming for sex when we're in danger? So remember, fellas, when you come home and we've got 3 babies and dishes and washing to go, our body is in a state of stress and it's going to be going, I don't think so. So this is all about discussions to have with families to understand each other in partnerships. but it's also really, really important in our working environment and our sports team, elite sports team's environment. We understand the neurobiological response to stress is to shut down our hearing, shut down our vision, and shut down our prefrontal cortex. This is a really detrimental state to stay in for long periods of time. How can we get out of this state? First of all, recognizing what it feels like. So understanding that you're starting to feel flushed, understanding that your fingers are starting to go cold, understanding actually how you personally, because everyone responds differently to this. And yes, in answer to your question, you can build up a stress response. So you can get really, really clever at operating under pressure. If you think of our elite soldiers, our special forces guys, you think of our elite athletes, you think of a lot of our frontline police and firemen, they are working under constant pressure and they're learning to control the red head response. Breathwork, meditation, exercise, they're all absolute mental skills models, so red to blue, they're all models that you can use and do some research on, and they will help you to decrease your stress response. The one biohack I'll give you is that for breathing, if we're starting to get an agitated response and we're starting to feel that cortisol response, if you breathe in and then breathe out 2 seconds longer than whatever you breathed in. People will say in for 5, out for 7, box in for 4, hold 4, out for 4. Basically, it doesn't matter how many you breathe in for, but breathe out 2 seconds longer. And it will stop or decrease rapidly your cortisol fight-flight response. Why? Because you've decreased your breath rate. And when you decrease your breath rate, you will decrease the cortisol response because the body, the subconscious brain goes, oh, you've slowed your breathing. You're no longer in danger. I'm going to decrease making cortisol. So it ties up closely with adrenaline and cortisol, norepinephrine. They're all in the lead circuit. They all work together. But cortisol is the most detrimental. So the key takeaways is know that the look on your face can subconsciously fire this response in other people. So you have a leadership and a management responsibility to put on a game face when you walk in the morning. You also have to understand that when you raise your voice or you have an aggressive pitch and tone, you'll get this response. So the response from your partner, from your kids, from your workmates, from your subordinates will be pretty poor, and that their subconscious fight-flight will have fired up and they'll either stop, freeze so that you can't see them, they'll want to fight, they'll get gobby, or they'll want to run away from you. So whatever it is, we need to be really aware of this state. We just need to understand the detriment, and we need to get our shit sorted in the mornings so that we don't hop in our car and drive to work or to school with our kids and ourselves in this highly agitated state. So you can do some more reading on this. As you embark on this fascinating journey into the world of neuroscience and cutting-edge research, I want to ensure that we're on the same page, legally speaking. Firstly, it's essential to clarify that I'm not a qualified neuroscientist, licensed therapist or counsellor. My role is to present you with meticulously sourced information from neuroscientists from around the world, drawing down from their doctorate papers and university research. I've taken the liberty of translating the scientific knowledge into layman's terms and spiced it up with my own unique interpretive dance, because learning should be both fun and actionable. However, please bear in mind that the information and courses provided here are intended solely for educational and entertainment purposes. They are not a substitute for professional medical advice, and I strongly advise consulting qualified health professionals such as physicians, coaches, therapists, psychologists for your personalised guidance. Your well-being is of the utmost importance to me. Therefore, while I strive to deliver intriguing insights, remember that making significant life changes require thoughtful consideration and appropriate guidance. You're invited to venture forth with me on this journey of discovery and growth, armed with knowledge and understanding to enrich our lives in meaningful ways.